Hello and welcome to Mash Talk, Mashable's only Google Plus Hangout, where we are talking about the Amazon Fire Phone today. The Fire Phone actually went on sale today through AT&T, and that also means that a plethora of reviews have come out this week, both saying some of the good things and also some of the bad things. Yeah, it seems like a lot of the things have been more critical than I guess positive, but nonetheless, we're going to talk about a lot of the great features that this has, some of the pros, some of the cons, and answer a lot of your questions. As always with Mash Talk, please use the hashtag MashTalk if you have questions, or use the Q&A app if you're watching right here on Google+. So I'm Ryan Lytle, Social Projects Manager here at Mashable. And joining me today is our esteemed panel of two, Lance Ulanoff, our Chief Correspondent, and Pete Paschal, our Tech Editor. How you guys doing?
We're good.
Good.
Like
Great.
our spot?
I love it. The couch is beautiful. I think this is this just fits. So we're going to start, Pete, with you. You had written the review for us, and you had a lot of good things to say about it. So let's talk a little bit about the review, and then we're going to jump into a lot of the features.
Yeah, well, like I said in the review, I think it's just a well-designed phone. I think some of the features are pretty cool. I did give a bunch of caveats, and it's mainly a phone designed for Amazon customers, and in that goal that Amazon set for themselves, I think they succeeded pretty well. To judge the phone as a complete smartphone experience, I could definitely see where the negative reviews are coming from. For example, if you're a big Google Apps person and you need that on your phone, and a lot of people are, it's like, well, there are workarounds, and you can get them on there, but you're not going to have the same kind of experience you have with an Android and iPhone.
And that's true, by the way. All of Amazon's product, all their tablets, anything that they've made, which is built upon the Android platform, they have always hidden, Android with their own Fire OS and their own curated set of apps, and that's ostensibly to protect the consumer from a bad experience on Google Play, although Google Play has gotten a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the things it does, one of the features is the dynamic perspective feature. That's one of the marquee things it does. So what it has is on the front of the phone, there are these 4 cameras in the corners, and this is separate from the extra front-facing camera that you use for selfies. And those cameras are always watching you, which sounds a little creepy, but actually what it is that they're always there to react to your eye movements and also the way you move the phone, to sort of predict what you're looking at. And part of it's aesthetic. It's like this you're showing the screen right now.
Yeah.
It's only going to move because we're, it's not going to see the webcam as a face.
I wish it would, because that's the funny thing. This is smart enough to know that it's not seeing a real face, so it seems locked to you folks out there. But as soon as I turn it back to me, it sees my face, and it becomes this crazy 3-dimensional image.
Yeah, and what I saw with the dynamic perspective, even though it's mostly a gimmick at this point, because what it does is sort of rotates the app icon slightly, some graphics slightly, so that the phone's always sort of oriented toward you. I saw this almost as a philosophical thing on the part of Amazon, where they designed this thing. The phone is always catering to you in some way. It's making you kind of the star of the experience, which I found to be that's kind of cool. That's kind of nice to sort of have that sort of pampery feeling, and it's a way to go, even though there's not a ton of function with it just yet. Although I will say, scrolling through web pages by tilting the phone and combining dynamic perspective with some of the gestures, so that if you use one-handed operation, you quickly get menus, you quickly get content. Doing that kind of thing, that's very nice for one-handed operation.
It's so funny. I keep wanting to show everybody how this works, but as soon as I turn it away from my face, none of it works.
And you need an over-the-shoulder cam. Next time, Ryan.
Right. I do think, by the way, that I think you're right that there's a whole, there's a part of this that is so much about the consumer and your experience. But of course, when I think about the technology, what they've done here, I think of it as extensible technology. So, for example, when Microsoft came out with Kinect, which could see you, there were a very limited number of games that used it. but it was that kind of technology, that aware technology that you knew people were going to build upon. So having a phone that sees you and is aware of your position, where you're looking, how you're holding things, I think that's pretty powerful, and that you will see a lot more stuff built on it. I do want to point out, though, what's really interesting is that you'll notice on some of the features here that they're not even extended where you think they might be. So I can tilt to scan through a web page, right, quite quickly, but I can't tilt to scan quickly through a book I bought through Amazon. There's no way to tilt to turn the page, which I found absolutely shocking, but you can tilt to do other stuff. I mean, the gestures, because not just what it can see, it's also, I guess, you can tell me if I'm right about this, when you do the sort of side-to-side gestures, that's based upon...
Should be able to show those.
That's based upon the motion of the device.
Just slip one side to the other.
Yeah, wait, I got to try and do it like this.
You got to go a little faster.
It's hard.
Let me see if I can do it.
Yeah. See if you can turn. So what we're trying to show you is these little gestures that actually bring up on the menu. See?
Yeah, I think I got it there.
I think you got it.
Yeah, it's mostly accelerometer there, or
right.
Gyroscope, or whatever they're using. Yeah, those work pretty well.
They do, and Amazon has put them in a number of places, they imagine your screen as sort of 3 screens in a number of places. You have the center screen, and then the stuff hidden off to this side and that side of the screen. So, when I tip it that way, I see my weather. When I tip it, I gotta go back. If I can get it this way, now it just got dark. I have no idea why. But if I tip, it's hard to do when it's not facing me. It's virtually impossible to do because you gesture a certain way. There's an angle gesture that brings up all your settings at the top, which is great. The thing's flashlight, Wi-Fi.
There's that's fine. I mean, and you can, like I say, the advantage here, a lot of phones do this, with some kind of gesture, and that, which is to say a swipe on a lot of Android phones will get you there. I just found it more convenient with the one-hand operation on the Fire phone because you don't have to hold it in one hand and then swipe with the other, particularly on big Android phones. I find it very annoying. Like I like the HTC One M8 a lot. That's probably my favorite Android phone of the year, but it's still a little big. It's still like when I'm on the subway and I'm holding onto the pole with one hand and I'm stretching my thumb to reach something on the screen in the top corner or whatever, I often end up letting go of the pole doing this, and if that's at a bad time, I just don't do it. So with the Fire phone, particularly for anyone who's like using public transport, I think it's a great choice.
So Pete, one of the things that I was thinking about is, and one of the reasons I will probably like this phone more than some of the other people as well, is that I think that they filled it full of a lot of good features. They started with a 13 megapixel camera. Right. That's already puts it at the top end of some of the phones.
Although I found the camera quality to say
and actually that's really important because your review talks about the regular outdoor light, fantastic photos, indoor light, not so good, like with darker situations, and they actually say in their materials that it's great low light photography.
Right.
Which I think that maybe if they had certain situations that make it that way, but
it's the hardest thing to do in mobile photography.
Right.
I mean, low light situations. I mean, you really need lenses that you can change ISO, aperture, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll take your picture.
Shutter speed to get anything that's not smeary or whatever. So, I mean, I ding them on the camera a bit, but it's like the camera is about as good as most of the cameras you're going to get on most phones. It's just not anything stellar.
It's not bad. I just took that picture.
One thing I'll say, a lot of the criticism that people have leveled towards dynamic perspective is that it's fairly gimmicky. And I'll give them that to a certain extent. But as a technical feature, it works perfectly. I mean, I've never known it to be glitchy. Like, it's all the stuff keeps watching you. Like, they really, as a technical thing, it works. It is not like some of these Samsung features where they kind of like, okay, well, this will scroll if you go this way, and then it's like, well, only if you hold it a certain way and if you do a certain thing. No, dynamic perspective works out of the box. It works with everyone who looks at the phone. There's no setup, and it's never glitchy.
I think that'll encourage more developers to build against it, because if they were to pick it up and say the effect is bad, or you know, it's not, it doesn't sort of pull you into it. You're like, why would I even try this? But as soon as you pick up the phone and you start looking at it, because some of the icons use it, a number of spots that are really custom built for the phone use it. You're shocked because it's like a cheat, you know, but it's the smartest cheat I've ever seen. To build 3D without lenticular displays, you know, where you've got two images that are kind of blended together like on 3DS, is a really powerful concept. And honestly quite smart. The other big marquee thing, of course, is Firefly.
Firefly.
I forgot that I neglected to bring anything in here.
I know. Here we go.
Do we have something? Okay, so this is good.
Work.
This is good.
No, it's okay.
So that's the Kleenex box.
Yeah,
and on the side
you got the button.
is. So let's see if we can do this. What I'm going to do, we're going to do this live. We hope this goes well. This is here.
Rehearse this.
This is here. All right. And I'm going to just hold down.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Let's hold it back a bit.
Yeah.
What?
Wait, did it get it?
It totally got it in like a second. And this was
That's impressive.
Look, guys.
Totally not rehearsed.
It's right there.
Totally grabbed it.
It's right there. I don't know if you can see that. I'm trying to make it so you can. Oh, it just went away.
That wasn't even a barcode.
Ah, there it is.
You know what I mean? If it was a barcode, that would have been easy.
So it picked that up immediately. If you tap it, then you can see, hey, I can buy. So think about the power of this. Think about what Amazon has done.
They've got to fill out their image library, but I mean, Amazon is in this for the long game. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, there were a lot of, you can read the reviews, there were a lot of glitchiness. Like, I mean, not glitchiness, but it just misidentified some products. Think about it as a 1.0 service, and again, this is a service that they're going to improve on the back end, so that you don't really have to buy a new phone to benefit from their improvements of the service. Project out 2, 5, 10 years. I mean, with advances in computer vision, this is going to be your tricorder. You know, I mean, you're going to be able to just scan virtually anything.
Well, you know, we haven't even talked about it. So they're scanning images. You know, they do sort of image matching for these products. They can also do barcodes. They can. There's a couple other things. Well, they recognize numbers. If you have a number, you have to key in. But imagine that in the future, you might point this at somebody's face, or you know, and it would just identify them, whether from a photo or someplace else. It would match it up. I mean, there's real potential here. It can work very quickly when it works. When it doesn't work, which is kind of funny, you know, this is the iPhone, obviously, and it can't recognize the iPhone. It doesn't know what it is.
It said it was a case.
Right. And by the way, if you're curious, if you folks are curious about the size difference on these phones, I put the iPhone in front of the Fire phone, so you can see it is significantly larger, 4.7 inches. And the other thing I meant to mention about the Fire phone is, for its size, I actually find it a little heavier than I expected. It's an extremely dense phone. It feels like they've shoved a lot into it. It does have Gorilla Glass on back and front, by the way. Gorilla Glass 3, they said. But
I was tempted to mention the weight in my review. I decided against it because honestly, it's like, compared to something like the Lumia 920, which is like really bulky by today's smartphone standards, and you know, bigger phablets. I mean, the HTC One M8, again, I like that phone a lot. It's a bit of a chunky phone. This is not that big. It's about what you'd expect from a phone, you know, a year ago. And I think the Nexus 5 and some other really thin phones, I mean, the iPhone, you know, kind of cheats a bit because it has a smaller screen. But
same thickness, right?
It's, I don't think the Fire phone is appreciably heavy. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, no one's really...
It's hard to explain. I felt this from the moment I picked it up. It feels so solid.
Solid, good word.
Yeah, it honestly does. I mean, I don't think when you think about the amount of stuff that they've shoved into here, there are, in addition to a forward-facing 2.1 megapixel camera, the 13 megapixel camera on the back, they have 4 additional cameras, each with their own infrared imagers. So there's so much that is in this phone that is not in other phones. And they managed to do it at a decent size, a decent weight, and still a decent price, $199.99.
Which decent.
Well, Do you want
to talk? 32 gigs though, right?
32 gigs, right? That was the other thing I meant to mention. That's a fairly big deal. That's 32 gigs, but it's only on AT&T. Now you're kind of giving a pass on that.
I am.
And I know why, because you and I talked about it. You think because Apple did it with the iPhone.
And the iPhone got it always gets rave reviews.
Yes.
And it was an AT&T exclusive for, whatever it was, 3 or 4 years. And although there was a lot of criticism and a lot of frustrated customers, I mean, the product, that's outside the scope of the product. That's a business decision.
Well, I think to a certain extent you are absolutely right. And I kind of agree with you. But I also think that we are, how many years? We are 7 years after the introduction of the iPhone.
Almost exactly. Wow.
Right.
That just occurred to me. It's like
that's
a week
right.
away. It's the anniversary or something.
That's right. So how is it that a company can arrive on the market with a phone 7 years after the first iPhone and only have one carrier, knowing what Apple went through and the frustration? Now, they could be thinking, because I remember this, and I'm sure you do too, the demand on the Verizon side for the iPhone was so strong. It was the question I got asked for, like, how many years? 2? 3? How many years was it before they actually arrived there? It was
Verizon 2011, January 2011.
Okay, so that's right. It was 2011. So it was a number of years. It was the question people asked forever. So does Amazon think they're going to build the same kind of buzz with this phone?
No,
and to get that demand?
I seriously doubt. I think there's, and who knows, this is probably something we should pursue, but there's some back-end deals to these kind of things in terms of like how much shelf space you're going to get if you give an exclusive deal. There's other subsidies that are coming into play that aren't beyond the obvious. I mean, there's some reason besides general market strategy. There could be some concern that I doubt this would apply to Amazon because they've got solid cloud systems, but I mean, that's something like Firefly. If it's on all 4 carriers, maybe the experience will suffer if too many people are using it at once. But for Amazon, I can't see that happen.
I can't see that.
But I mean, there's a business reason for it. They just haven't revealed it.
Well, I think it's interesting that you said that because Amazon is one of the few carriers that has something that's so specific on it that you could probably see if there was going to be a big problem with customer support.
Oh yeah,
front.
That could have been it.
This phone has Mayday on it. I don't want to. If I do it, I would actually bring up a Mayday person, which seems unfair in this environment. But basically, if you don't know what Mayday is, it's 24/7 video support for your device. You click on it, a live person shows up, asks you what you want. They don't see you, you see them. Not only that, they do see your phone and at least the interface so they can guide you. So when you ask them a question like, where's Firefly? They will draw on your screen and show you where it is and walk you through it. Now they introduced this on the Amazon Kindle Fire HDX tablets. It was a really big deal. It's quite a cool feature. But if you roll out, if they're lucky and say 1 million people buy these Fire phones today and they get them in a week or 2 or 3 weeks and they all start asking questions at once, are they prepared on the Mayday side? If it was doubled or tripled because they were in Verizon and Sprint, maybe that is too much. Maybe that's something they can't
you're right.
support.
That would be the one feature that they probably wouldn't be able to scale quite so quickly. I mean, the AT&T thing, I mean, it is what it is. At least AT&T's network is fairly solid these days. So it's not like they're going to some no-name carrier or someone you don't think will be able to handle it. I mean, you're going to have a good experience at AT&T. You just got to get beyond AT&T, obviously.
By the way, obviously, this phone is fantastic for all the things that you would expect Amazon to do well, video games and all that, and reading. I've got a book here. It's actually George Takei's Oh My, and you do swipe the pages the way you would think, like this and this. It does not work with tipping, and if I tip it like this, then you'll see details about controlling the book, and if I tip it the other way, what you see here, that's X-ray. And the reason I bring that up is there's X-ray all over the place here. Right? They have it for books, for music, for TV shows and movies.
On Amazon Instant Video. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can learn really quickly, like if he mentions Star Trek or Leonard Nimoy in the book and I do X-ray, it'll tell me all about that. If I'm watching a TV show, I guess it's Firefly works with, I guess it's X-ray. I'm not actually sure about this. You can tell me what's going on here. But on the Firefly side, I can identify TV and movie shows by sound.
Right.
And after that, does that actually involve the X-ray part?
That's a good question. I believe so.
Because that would give you details about whoever. Because once you do that, you can learn like who this person is, and because it wouldn't just right. Because Firefly will identify what the show is, but then X-ray kind of goes into the details. Like they have a partnership, not a partnership. They own IMDb, so they use IMDb to power all the data behind the movie and TV show information. So once you've identified what it is, but it's pretty cool that they can identify songs and TV shows and movies by sound. And you actually have to tap a special area in Firefly for that to work.
Speaking of movies and TV shows, and you can't get Google services on this phone, but it is the only Android phone with Amazon Instant Video.
Yes. Right. And right now, if you're buying the phone today, they're actually giving you 1 year free of Amazon Prime, which is like $95, right? Is that
$99. $100.
That's right. It's $99, and you get the free 2-day shipping. Yeah. You get the unlimited video, which just says TV shows and movies.
Well, with select titles.
Yeah, it's not everything.
Yeah, it's not everything.
It's certainly not the new stuff. You're not going to get.
So at least with Amazon, that's why I kind of like Amazon service, because it's everything. You do have everything. It's just once you get out of the unlimited stuff, it's a la carte, but you don't have to go to another service.
I was looking for. Oh, there's Instant Video. It's funny they don't call it Instant Video. They call it Instant Video. They don't call it Prime on here when you look at it. But there's.
Right. Well, Prime is a subset.
Right.
Because you can get all of it through the app.
That's
You'll just have to pay if it's not in Prime.
So so there's HBO on Prime Instant Video, and actually it was working. So the scrolling, by the way, on this works the same way. If I scroll up and down, it actually shows.
Yeah. Get the video working on the screen. You got to do that.
Let's see if any of this works in here. I don't know. Oh. I have to buy it. I'm not buying anything. I managed to choose choose the wrong thing.
So everything about this is designed to serve up, content, merchandise, whatever you kind of have a whim for. It's right there on your phone, and it caters to those kind of impulses and that kind of consumption. And that was clearly the intent behind this phone, and I'd say it succeeded very well. I would say anyone who does buy the phone is probably going to have a good experience if they're expecting that. And it's like what Bezos said at the unveiling, that filling the bucket with the dropper. Like, I don't think anyone who buys this phone who's new to Amazon Prime is going to drop that service. You do get a lot of good service out of Amazon Prime.
How do you? I have a question for you, Pete. You mentioned something to me, and I'm kind of. How do you go back on this phone? If you were doing something and then doing something else.
So here's the thing. It's funny. It's like our chief creative storyteller. The first thing he said when I showed him this phone was like, it looks like iPhone and Android had a baby. And it does. It kind of looks like an iPhone from a distance. Then you see, it's got that slab for a home button. Now the thing that really differentiates from Android, there's no back button. How do you go back? And I'll tell you, like, the story I tell in my review is a true story where it's like you find yourself trapped in a Facebook photo album and you're just like slamming the phone left and right and gesturing every which way just to get out of it. No, it's like, here you go. Just swipe up from the bottom. That's the back button. And once you figure it out, it's fine, but it's sort of like the curse that Windows 8 also suffered is like, it's not intuitive to anyone just picking up the phone, It's almost, you could use it as almost like a gag to anyone walking by. Like, they'll start playing with it and then they'll be trapped. Things like that is absolutely true. There's a couple unintuitive things. Like, one of them also is that by default, the status bar, which just shows how many bars you have in your battery life, that's off. You don't see that. You only see it if you tilt the phone a little bit. And it's like, I think that's a little
right. You said if
if you have it on, this was almost like one of the cool / creepy moments I had with the phone. It was face up on my desk. I'm typing. I looked down on it, and suddenly the status bar just appeared as soon as I sort of put my eyes on it, which was like, obviously, this is dynamic perspective working. It's the cameras searching for my eyes. It found them. Oh, he's looking at the phone. Let's show him the whole status. Now, I don't know. Like on a phone, I've never felt that the status bar is really in the way, particularly if I'm on one of the home screens. So this is a bit of a show-off thing to leave it off by default. But I would think that's probably one of the first settings most people will just turn on, because you can turn it on to have it just be persistent all the time. As opposed to, but that still go away in video apps.
I believe the reason they did this is because they want this to look as little like an Android phone as possible. Amazon has done everything possible to push Android down and into the background. This is running Fire OS probably 3.0. Is that right? Is it 3.0?
3.2?
Maybe it's the yeah. So
someone look that up.
So they're actually naming their own operating system that sits on top of an actual operating system, which tells you how much they want people to really connect with the Amazon and the Fire brand and not think of this as an Android phone. And you know, who knows how successful they will be. By the other way, the other thing to note is that bar, I think, works with the peak functionality, which sort of is this idea of, for certain things like in photos. So if we go to where are my photos?
Should be there.
Friday. So it has has a carousel. If you've
the Kindle carousel.
This is a Kindle carousel, which is on all tablets, all of these Kindle devices. And let's see if we can. So if we look at photos and I tip it, and I don't think I can do it from here, but basically there's a small tip, and when you do the small tip, you get all the dates for your photos.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not a hard turn, it's a little tip.
Yeah, it does it in Maps too. Maps will show you points of interest. That might be a little easier to see.
And if you ever think of going to Paris, you must see that. Which, by the way, I did bring that up for a reason. Cloud, you brought it up in your review. Amazon Cloud is part of this product. I signed in with my account. I've forgotten I put all my Paris photos in the Amazon Cloud some years ago, and so they just appeared. How much storage do we get?
Unlimited. You never, ever, ever run out of space in the cloud. For photos, not for videos.
So that's such an amazing. I think people must remember how that is a real value add, because you are going to pay for storage, more storage everywhere else. And if you think that the 5 gigs that people give you for free, or 7 gigs or whatever is enough, you're wrong. It's not enough.
Well, it's going to get cheaper. It is getting cheaper.
Yeah, there's the cloud wars.
But there are fees attached to all of it. There's small fees, and even when iCloud Photo Library comes out this fall, it's only going to be $2 or $3 for, I believe, 200 gigs, which is virtually unlimited for most people, I would say. But it's still that recurring $2 a month. That is, do you really need another fee? No one wants another fee.
Right.
This gives you no more fees, other than Prime, of course. You still have Prime. There's catches everywhere. They'll get your money one way or another. But one thing I will also give kudos on, and I almost like this more than the unlimited storage on Amazon, I've never even used Amazon Cloud, before this review. I logged in for the first time after setting up the phone, and I was only logged into Amazon in my browser, and boom, it was all there. Like, there was no setup. You know, I mean, it's like I just logged into the phone via Amazon, boom, all my stuff's all synced with my Amazon account, all my Kindle books are on there. It's all just like they get the platform. They make it as super simple, convenient as possible. And there you go.
I think that's a very important point, that this is, if you are in, if you've adopted or you love the Amazon ecosystem, has become an ecosystem, this is going to be the phone you want, because basically all your stuff is there already. What you like, what you use, it's there. Now, you do have to set it up with your email account. That doesn't carry over, your Twitter account, all that. But everything that you've done with Amazon, sort of as a consumer of the stuff that they offer, it's all there. And everything you've put in their cloud is all there, and that's actually pretty nice. Amazon recognizes all that. I've been an Amazon customer for a long time because I've had a Kindle, the original Kindle, Kindle version 2, for forever. Now I'm up to the Kindle with the reading light, the Paperwhite. So I have that, and I've tried out obviously all of the HDX devices, the Fire device. So it's a smart way of, if you want to be consistent across all things. That is, by the way, the reason that this phone exists, because Amazon wanted to basically fill in the screen they were missing, cover you in the place where they had lost you, which is on the phone. They want you to always be looking through the Amazon portal, which, by the way, usually leads to shopping and spending money through Amazon.
Yeah, that's a good place to kind of jump into some user questions. So we've heard a ton about everything that you can expect to use in the Fire phone, and we've been collecting a lot of your questions throughout the Q&A app and on the hashtag #MashTalk, and I want to pass a few along to you guys. So Lance and Pete, this is from Rob B on Google+. He asks, and this is about dynamic perspective and some of the tilting functions. Can you turn off or change the sensitivity of the tilt feature, or is it basically one size fits all?
Yeah, we'll check it out right now. I know there's a whole section of the settings devoted to dynamic perspective, I think under device. No, display or device? I think it's probably device.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you on that one.
We're looking. There's a lot of.
All right, Lance is gonna check.
Okay, no, this is good. So Lance, while you're checking that,
I will tell you though, you can disable it entirely.
Okay.
That is definitely possible, and you can some of the trick stuff, like the having certain things on or off by default, is you can turn those on and off individually, like the status bar, and all of the gestures, like tilting it, are also accessible by swiping from either edge.
Great. Okay, so Rob, we know you can at least turn it off. This is from Iswar SR on Google+. What can you tell us about the battery? So what have been your thoughts on battery life and in that?
Horrible. I basically got all day, and it was down to about 18%. And this was about moderate to heavy use. It was down to about 15 to 18% by about 8:30 p.m. after taking it out of its charger at about 7 a.m. So that's so it was like most phones. That doesn't bode well, I think, for how well it's going to do if you own it for 2 years. At the end of that cycle, it's probably not going to be great, but
yeah, it starts with I don't know. The screen is set in auto brightness right now. Obviously, there's a way to control it with by lowering that.
Yeah, I mean, all regular battery tips apply. This display is number one. Yeah, I think this phone, especially early on, isn't going to get you a great battery life because you're going to want to play with it. You're going to want to show it off to people. It's kind of it does cool tricks.
I mean, they said that one of the things they point out is that this stuff is all low power, right? They keep pointing out that the stuff that does the dynamic perspective is all low power stuff. So supposedly so you don't feel like, oh my God, I'm going to be eating the battery power.
Yeah, it's probably, I forget what the processor is, but there's probably a small core, a dedicated small power core to those kind of functions, like similar, like the Moto X. It's like, how does it? It's constantly listening to you, even in standby mode. And the way they do that, there's a single core that's a low power core in the processor that is dedicated only to listening for a passphrase. You can do kind of cool things when you get these multiple cores now with phones. Something you couldn't do when we had like single core or even dual core. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty.
Great. Okay, so this question is from. Sorry, we have some sirens outside. So welcome to New York.
While you're talking, because I want you to be able to see what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Let's do over the shoulder. Yeah. Actually, you know what? We can do over the shoulder with this. Hold on, guys.
All right.
We can do this. All right, check it out.
All right. So I am basically tipping this just a little bit. I could if I cared about shopping for dresses, I could endlessly shop for dresses. I'm not pressing anything. I'm just.
Yeah, it's just the tilt, and you can
I'm
slow
tilting.
it down.
I can go slow. I go fast. Oh, they're running. They're running. Back.
I barely mentioned that. I don't even know if I mentioned that because it's only like one or two things
And
in Amazon that can do this.
I think that if let me see if this works. See if I can get in close.
Oh yeah, you can move.
So
actually, I think you can do it even from the profile if you go back.
Oh yeah.
Swipe up. Now do it from there. Yeah. See.
Oh yeah. So I'm basically. This is just with a little gesture. So since we're doing this, now you'll be able to see in the browser.
Yeah. So here's an article page that we called up a little earlier.
Right. So I'm just gonna tip. Well, it's actually still loading. Yeah.
Oh, you can try it. See. Oh, there it is. It's loaded up.
So there I go. And if I go more tilt, it goes faster. If I go back.
Yeah, you can stop it.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not.
You have to go a little further, I think. Keep going.
No,
go further at the angle.
This way?
There, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, you just got to go like almost straight up.
Yep. Now it's going back down.
Yeah.
So that's.
Think of all the subway commuters. Yeah. Think of them. So anyway.
Great. Okay. And so we talked about Firefly as well. This question is from Mike Downs, and he asks, "What does Firefly give that Google Goggles does not?"
Google what?
Google Goggles.
Oh, Google Goggles.
No, I don't know that it. Well, it can't. Google Goggles can't do sound, so it cannot. It's not going to pick up a song or a TV show. But
got the button.
But it's similar. I mean, it's certainly similar.
Firefly definitely packages existing technologies. One of the things it does, I'm not sure if Google Goggles does this. Firefly will also pick up text. So it does, if there's a URL, if there's an email address, a business card.
Oh yeah, they
get information from that.
Yes.
Really quickly. That's actually very, very handy. And to be clear, it doesn't create the content tagged or anything. It's just it'll hoover up all the text information on the business card and basically turn it into digital text.
But other scanners that might do a similar thing don't have the really cool Firefly effect. The little bugs flying around. That makes it cool.
So I could certainly envision Evernote combining with Firefly in some way, and it whether it's like you Firefly the business card and you tap send to Evernote or send to LinkedIn or send to contacts. I mean, that's it's just developers doing the integration.
Great. Okay, so we just have a few minutes left. I want to thank everyone who had tweeted using the hashtag #MashTalk and those who had asked some questions here in the Q&A app. Lance, Pete, I want to open it up to final thoughts for the two of you. I know we've talked about a ton of features here, some pros and cons. But Lance, I'm gonna start with you. Some final thoughts on the Fire Phone.
Ultimately, I think that this is an excellent first phone from Amazon. It gets a lot more right than it does wrong. I think the experience, if you have an Amazon account, is going to be a good one. These features that maybe don't seem to have enough utility yet will definitely get more. I think the biggest problem they have is not being on other carriers. I'm sure they will eventually solve that, especially if this does well. But the key here for Amazon is to do as Google's original Android partners did. Tough it out. I don't think it's going to be a blockbuster hit early on. It may take a year. It may take the Windows sort of slow crawl, but they have to stick with it if they want to actually have success in this space.
Yeah, I definitely say the same thing, and I'm very confident this is not the last phone from Amazon. They're in this in a long game kind of thing. They're not just throwing it out there to see what sticks out, whatever. I mean, I think they know for their ecosystem and their platform, like they need a device in this space, and all the stuff about differentiating and whatever. Yeah, they're obviously trying to do their very best to stand out in a industry that is getting harder and harder to stand out in. So I think they did a decent job of putting together a really well-designed phone with some fun features. And it's like when I used it, I wasn't necessarily thinking, would I use this phone? But more like what people like my wife use the phone, who, we have Amazon Prime, we're ordering things all the time. Would it be helpful for her to be able to shoot photos and never ever have to worry about storage? Yes. That is probably the number one thing I do with her phone is back up stuff and clear out her storage on photos and put them somewhere. If she didn't have to do that, would be amazing. So, I mean, the dynamic perspective thing, like I say, from a philosophical standpoint, I think it's kind of a neat thing to do. And there is, and it's mostly potential right now, but there is great potential for developers to do something cool with it. And we're already starting to see that happen with the first games that come out that use it. So, like I say, with these kinds of things like Firefly, dynamic perspective, project that out 2, 5, 10 years. Like, those could become almost mini platforms in and of themselves. And it's a smart move. Amazon is seeding things very well here. Even if maybe the first product is feels a little 1.0-y, it's like you can really feel those good ideas, there, and they just need to take a little more shape.
Great. Well, again, thank you to everyone who tuned in today, those who tweeted with the hashtag MashTalk, everyone here on Google Plus who submitted their questions as well, and a huge thanks to both Lance and Pete for sharing their expertise, as always, this time on the Amazon Fire Phone. Let's keep this conversation going. Let us know, are you going to get the Amazon Fire Phone? Have you already gotten it? Any other thoughts that you have? Use the hashtag MashTalk, and we'll be looking for some of those answers. So until next time, talk to you guys soon.
Watch out for Sharknadoes.
Sharknado flag.